Hello, 13 jurors. Hello, hello. I am so excited. I am fangirling here. I am so excited. I have been, we talk about him all the time. We say all the time how every time we watch somebody do something crazy or act weird or make a movement or, anything, we're always like, ooh, I wonder what Dr. G would say about this. And now we have him with us here live. Hello, Dr. G. Thank you for hanging out with us and taking time to come talk to us.
No, I'm really super excited to be here. So I really appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. And I know, so tell everybody about kind of your background, because I know you're a clinical psychologist and you're, and much more beyond that too. And you're from kind of like around my old neck of the woods. I grew up in the Atlanta area, outskirts, but so I know you're from there, but tell everybody kind of about your background.
So I'm a clinical and a forensic psychologist. Right now, I mostly practice clinical psychology, but historically I've done a couple of thousand forensic evaluations. And for people who don't know what that means, that's basically any evaluation that's related to the courts. So it can be something civil or criminal, all sorts of stuff, but lots and lots of it. But just because I got a couple of kids at home and I want to have more time with them, I do more of the clinical therapy kind of stuff right now. So in terms of the other aspect of what I do, I also have a YouTube channel called Dr. G Explains, and I do a lot of body language analysis on there. Not exclusively that, but primarily that, because that's what people love to watch, and I love true crime, so that's where I spend a lot of my time.
Yes, and tell them about the one that you're about to do.
Yes, so I just finished editing a video on Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke, so that's going to be coming out probably about an hour after we finish up with this interview. It's a really interesting one, and I found some stuff that I haven't seen people talk about yet, so it's going to be pretty cool. So
I'm so excited about that one. And yeah, they're laughing at my face because I always joke about how I can't fix my face, like anything that I'm thinking or feeling, which, I mean, you could look at it and know that anyway. I'm sure that's what you do. But so they're laughing because I'm fangirling and I can't fix my face. And even if I could, you would be able to see through it because that's what you do. So the one with Ruby Franke too, I've had so many people emailing me and asking if I'm going to cover that one, and that is one that we're going to look at. So I'm really excited to see when you get that one loaded tonight. We'll all be there like peeking in the windows waiting for it to come out. So I'm excited about that one.
Awesome, thanks.
So I want to talk to you because I know like the first one that we were going to jump into is the Tommy walkthrough. Sure. So for anybody who didn't watch the Tommy trial, it's Thomas Randolph. He's known as the widower, and he's interesting. He's interesting. He is one of those that is, as you're watching him, some of the things that, and Lord knows he loves to talk, and some of the things that he talks about are and some of the things he says that come out of his mouth are just like, oh my gosh, like did that really happen? And one of the things that we watched that we were just like in shock and awe about was the walkthrough that he did. And defense actually tried to keep this from being entered into the trial because of how kind of
very
crazy,
odd.
Very odd. It's bizarre. So we actually, while we were watching this, I think we must have said your name 100 times, like, wondering what you had to say about it. So that's going to be the first one that we look at. So let me add our little video. And any of the stuff that I'm going to turn the volume down on it a little bit so that we can hear.
Sure.
Hear you talk. But any of this, anytime you see anything, tell us and say it, and because I want to hear everything about it, and then and I can pause it whenever we do too. So, but this is the Tommy walkthrough.
Driveway about when I start to make the curve, about right. About there, we start opening the door up. I will stop because there's not enough room for both cars.
He sure does talk a lot.
You can't get both cars in and get both people out. So I stop the car. Sharon gets out. She had the steak and lobster from charcoal grill or something. So she gets out, closes the door. She goes on in, starts walking in. I give her a little bit of head start to get to the door. I start pulling in. By then, she's pretty much got in. I may not be able to get the car in at all because of the people moving the car when they clean.
Do what?
Yeah, just pause it for just 1 second. I want to tell you a couple of things about
Yeah.
the way that he does this.
Yeah.
Well, one thing to keep in mind with liars, they love having props. I actually just talked about this in a video recently. So the fact that he's got his car is going to make him a lot more confident, because that makes people able to they can kind of hide parts of their body. They've got things they're working with. It just gives them more confidence, which makes lies seem more believable, because the more confident you are, the more we question, okay, maybe this person isn't lying. And so another challenge with him is that he is fully leading this walkthrough. You don't have somebody asking questions. He's just in charge, so he can say what he wants. He can do what he wants. And that makes it much harder to detect lies, because if somebody else was asking or pointing at inconsistencies or saying, well, what about this or what about that? That's where you really start to see people start to break down. So this is an interesting one to analyze, because he has so much control right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going, but I just wanted to point that out.
And all the details too. I want to hear your take on the millions and millions of extra details that he gives in all of his stuff.
But I'll try.
Okay. So she's already in the house.
She's going in the house about right now.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to get out of the car, so I'm going to have to move the car over. I can't get out.
That's fine. You can just do the best you can.
Well, I actually start shutting the door as I get in. I would have already shut the door. It would have been coming down as I start getting out.
Hold it for a second again. So the excessive talking, the excessive details, it tells us a lot about his personality, because when people can't inhibit what they're going to say, that suggests they're impulsive. And impulsive people adds a layer of concern to the kinds of behaviors people can engage in, because most of us are able to think through things. Even if we can be impulsive, we have the ability to think through, make good decisions, not have poor judgment. He shows that he has a really bad sense of audience. Like, he does not know what's relevant, what's not. And he seems to think that if I throw as many details out there as possible, I'll seem more believable, which is really the opposite effect.
Yeah.
But it's his lack of awareness that makes him do that, I think.
Yeah. And he seems to, it's funny you mentioned that, not knowing his audience, or who he's talking to, because even in some of the interviews and stuff, some of the things that he says are so vulgar. Like when he's talking about, that's one of the things I noticed in one of his interviews too. He's talking to them in such a vulgar way about women, and he's there to talk about his murdered wife. And it's just one of those things I'm like,
this is one of those people that if I was assigned to evaluate, it's one that afterwards I would just walk away going like, this guy's so strange. I really got to figure this out. Sometimes that happens. You go like, this person is unique, even for someone who's unique. He's just unusual. So, but it does tell us aspects of someone's personality and their functioning when they can't inhibit this kind of stuff. So that is important. And that tells us, and being that impulsive does tell us more about the kinds of poor decisions that he made. Anyway, we'll keep going, because I've definitely got more to point out.
Okay, good.
This is about how close it was that night, so that's probably...
Okay, so what do you do now?
This is it, just coming on in the house. Now this door was closed, so I open it up. I get right here, and Sharon's laying in the floor, face down. Her head's just barely in the bedroom, if that. And I stopped right about here, had the door, said, Sharon. And I seen the badge from charcoal steak or whatever, and it's really a bright red. And it's highlight.
1 second. Let's pause this right here. So if I understood what he was trying to say there, I think he was talking about the color of the blood was red like something? I mean, was that the impression you got when he's talking about the charcoal steak thing? Like, I don't
He
remember.
had a bag of like a to-go bag, and it was in a bright red bag, like his to-go stuff.
Okay.
Because he had said in one of the interviews too that he thought there was blood, but it ended up being the to-go bag and stuff.
But it's these sorts of, once again, these weird details that he thinks if he includes, that it's going to make him more convincing. You know, one thing he's not showing is anxiety. And for people that are not psychopaths, or for people that are not that don't have some sort of serious thing going on, if you've been in a situation where there have been people that have been killed, or there's been experiences like what he's talking about, you tend to show some anxiety. I mean, it'd be one thing if he was a soldier, or, you know, one of those kinds of things, but this is a situation where you would anticipate, given the traumatic events that he claimed happened, that he would show some anxiety, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Show any. So
Yeah. It's just a normal day for him. So weird.
Yeah, it is.
This hall light wasn't on at the time.
So it was just like this?
Just about like this, and I turned the light on myself as we got in. And I could see that red thing, and it was up underneath her, and I thought it was blood. I thought that was blood then. And I started to get nervous about backing off, and I actually came to the door, and I touched it, and then I stopped and put it back down, because I thought, nah, I was going to go get a neighbor, and I took something like that. And about right here, when I was like this, I was trying to kind of get a view. I thought I just seen like a shadow or something over this way. And I remembered that there's the 9mm right up here, because earlier I'd taken all my guns, put them in a suitcase, was going to take them to Utah and switch the guns around. I reached right up here, got the gun, and as I got the gun, there's also an extra clip. There's a few up there, but I got the gun and the clip.
Show us in there where it's at.
Right. Normally it would be right in here. Right in here. And I still, I was trying to be attentive to where's, what's going on out there. And like I said, and I'd already started to run, and then I just reached up just like that, grabbed it, stuck it in my pocket, came around just like that. And about that time, he's right up on me, just right up on me. And we actually touched right about here. And he's short. And when I don't know if he gave me an elbow, but as we came around like that, I was kind of coming out. I was actually going to try to be slow, and look out, but it just happened too quick. We came up, and he kind of banged into me about right here. And then he went over to about right here, and somewhere along here, I bit my mouth.
So one of the challenges with this guy is that even if he was telling a story that was true, his sense of audience is so bad, it's impossible to follow him.
Yes.
He did show some signs of anxiety. He was blinking a minute ago when he was talking about the guy being short and bumping into him. So there definitely was elements of that even he felt a little less comfortable with. But he's so peculiar, he's hard to follow.
Yeah. So Lisa Wilmot wants to know, what do you think about his pigtails that he had in court for his last trial?
It was at first, like, I got confused about who it was, and I'm not trying to like be rude, but I thought it was a woman at first when I saw I didn't realize it was his trial, and I saw some of the clips, and it's just I think he just doesn't. Some of the issues that are wrong with some of the things that the challenges that he has, I think, really genuinely do disconnect him from the reality that the rest of us live in. So
Yes.
I'm not sure he's trying to act out. I just don't think he knows the difference. Like, he just doesn't seem to care or have the ability to process it.
Yeah. So bizarre.
Yeah, very much so.
Mouth or something, trying to say something like, what the fuck, or something. And he looked kind of like, and I don't know if he was looking in here to see if there was somebody else or what. And there was he had on a sweatshirt. And I don't remember if I seen the handle in the sweatshirt, if I seen the handle down his pants, but he was doing something, going for something down in here. And as we got up in here, and he kind of rushed up on me a little bit, and that's when I just pushed him, boom, 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 and he started going out toward the shed. I don't know how many times I shot him, but I just just kept right on going. Boom, boom, boom. And he's just laying there. Just laying there. And I look back because then I'm trying to make sure everything's cool.
So what we're seeing though is excitement, right? When he's talking about that, this is somebody who's telling a story they're very proud of. He seems to be having fun talking about this. And so once again, the stress that you would anticipate seeing from somebody like that just isn't there. And some of the body language he was showing, he put his tongue in the side of his cheek at one point. We do that to calm ourselves if we're starting to feel a little anxious. He's vague with details, so he'll try to acknowledge something like he had the gun around his belt or around his waist or whatever it is that he said. So basically he's acknowledging that it was legitimate for me to shoot him, but I'm not going to provide specific details in case I get it wrong.
Right.
Remembering stuff like that can be difficult, but it doesn't look like the way he's doing it.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. All right.
Driveway about.
Oh, it started me. Oh,
yeah, that was the whole thing, I think, right? Or no, was there more to it?
Oh, there was one more part. Let me pull up the whole thing is like an hour,
Okay.
but I want to pull up here. I can pull it up right here, I think. The part where he's explaining this stuff and he's like going through like 007. Let me,
Okay.
It's bizarre. It's so bizarre. I think I have it saved on my stuff somewhere, but then he does the thing where he gets down on the ground and stuff and he keeps and then he can't get up.
Well, some of the comments I'm noticing are people saying it's cringy. He is uncomfortable to watch. I mean, you get secondhand sort of awkwardness watching this guy sometimes.
Yes. All right. Okay. This is something I wanted to, when he's, talking about Sharon, I want to know your thoughts on this part. Let's see. Oh, this is where he's doing his 007, where he's like walking through like he's,
What are you doing when you're doing this?
Do what?
What are you doing now?
I'm just kind of trying to see if anything else is going on. Like there's anybody around. And I came in here and then I started going here and Sharon's laying right here.
oh, the shoe part. I want to ask him about the shoe part too, Lindsay.
And I think I turned this light on then. Turned that light on. And I did not go in there. I don't know why I did. She was kind of in the way here and I could see stuff all over there. I mean, stuff, these boxes, there was some clothes, the drawers was open, but she was laying here. And by then I could tell she was hurt really, really bad. I mean, the blood was just, then you could see thick blood. And I came back over and I went to call 911. And I came back over and I didn't have my phone. And it keeps falling off of me. I come back through here and
it's so weird to me how he's like acting out like he's holding a gun and everything.
Because that's what matters to him. He wants the goal for him during this interview is to seem cool, to show how awesome he is, and to show how much it's playing out like a movie. Like that's what he thinks matters to people, that he looks cool. He's not thinking about the fact that this is a grave situation that people are taking very seriously. He's just thinking about, oh man, look how cool I'm going to look hunting around the halls like I'm a secret agent or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't understand the context well enough to act appropriately, because he's acting out what he thinks what's important, because what's important to him is that he looks cool right now, basically.
Yeah. That's so weird.
It is.
And, just didn't know what to do and just kind of looking around.
Because they even asked him a minute ago, like, what are you doing right now? And he's like, I'm looking around.
And I dialed 911 and the phone didn't work. And I remember saying, fuck, what a time for a Vonage to go out. And I stuck the phone in my pocket and I thought about Sharon's cell phone. And I looked around because sometimes she sits it on the on the table. So I don't know how long she'd been, because I was for a minute letting the door come down and listen to the song. Looked on the table, came back out.
See, if I hadn't seen him elsewhere, I would think he was drunk right now because of the way that he talks, because he has this kind of inebriated sound when he talks.
Yeah.
I presume he isn't, because he seems to always basically be like this. But he does have such an unusual presentation.
Yeah. Well, they said that he had pain medication for his back, which the defense tried to have this video thrown out because he had taken some of his pain medication.
Okay. Gotcha.
But because they said something about well, he didn't really know what he was saying, but they allowed it in because he had said these same things in multiple interviews. So they
come through here. I tried actually about right here. I take it back, about right here. I tried 911 again, and it was busy. When I called 911, it was busy. So I said, good, it's not Vonage. And I got back over here where I could kind of see everything. And I called 911 again, and that's when whoever said 911 and said, slow down, you're breathing too hard, slow down, whatever. And what's the emergency? And I don't remember for sure what I told him. Something about my wife been shot. This guy's tried to rip me off. I shot him. I think she said, did you shoot your wife or something? I don't remember what all was said. You guys will have to get the tape of that. I don't remember. But just said that she'd been shot really bad. We needed paramedics out here. Had to hurry. She told me not to hang up the phone. Ask about the guns. I think she asked about, was there guns in the house? And I said, yeah, there was guns in the house. And I think then that's when she said, I'm gonna, don't hang up. She told me 2 or 3 times not to hang up, but she told me don't hang up, but she said something about she's gonna put a paramedic or a medical person or somebody on the phone now and listen to them. And said,
did she ask you what your address was?
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
What did you tell her?
I told her the address. I think maybe that's when she told me to slow down. I was too excited or something.
What address did you give her?
Well, I'm assuming I gave her this one, 6517 Rancho Santa Fe Drive. But, I may have said it wrong. I don't remember. But it does. I do remember once she told me to settle down. I was too excited or something. And so anyway, the paramedic got on the phone.
So when you see gestures like this, these sort of unconscious things, we tend to do this to try to calm ourselves down. So as he's thinking back in that moment, he probably was kind of amped up, regardless of whether, considering what he had done, he probably did have a lot of adrenaline. So going back to that moment when you see him stroking his face, that is a way we calm ourselves down. So you can see him really going back to that moment for a brief second.
Oh, okay.
After giving you 15 minutes of details on the 911 call.
Right. What's crazy about this too is that a lot of the details that he gives and the conversation that he had on the 911 call as he's explaining it in this walkthrough, when you listen to the 911 call, it didn't happen. A lot of the stuff that he was saying is not part of the conversation at all, which is so bizarre because you would think they're going to know that, they're going to listen to that. So
this is what you got to understand about some people that lie, though. They don't care if you can prove that they're telling things that aren't, that you're saying things that aren't true. I mean, if you think about his history, for people that, and I've seen this with people I've worked with that have really extensive substance abuse histories, they will lie to you in ways that, they will lie to your face. They will have somebody like, hey, I saw you, doing this drug this morning. I literally watched you doing it. And I took pictures, and they'll be like, no, you didn't. And they'll show them pictures. Yeah, that wasn't me. That was somebody else. I mean, it doesn't matter if there's evidence. So he doesn't care.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
Yeah, brazenly lying is a unique skill.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to see what you say about the stuff. There's one part where he talks about Sharon leaving the shoes, and the defense tried to make it out to be like, he was like, oh, I wish she were here right now to do this. And I want to see what you have, because that's not what any of us saw. So I want to see what you have to say about that part. And then about when he's talking about her being on the ground too. I think that part's next.
And he says, so what's happened with your wife, or describe your wife, or whatever, something to that effect. And I said, well, she's been shot. She's bleeding a lot she's on her belly. She's bleeding a lot underneath her head. I don't remember exactly, but I described basically whatever was going on with her. And that's what I remember. She was bleeding under her head, and that's what I'd said. And I told him I had taken a pulse and I couldn't get a pulse. And he said, "You've already taken one." And I said, "Yeah." And I believe that's what happened. He asked me, and I said, "Yes." And he says, "Okay, now listen close. This isn't going to be," he was basically telling me it was going to be yucky. I don't remember the words he used, but he said that we needed to take care of Sharon or she was going to die. And it wasn't going to be pleasant, is maybe what he said. And I said, that's okay. I can do it. Let's just do what we got to do. And so he told me to.
Just one quick second. I mean, I just want to point out, and I'm sure it's maybe an obvious thing to state, but like, he's so strange. You get lost in the fact that he's talking about his dead wife. You know? And it's just like, it's nothing. You know, it can be talking about anything. It's just, his presentation is so strange. It throws you through loops sometimes because you forget the seriousness of what he's talking about and how incongruent his behavior is really with the subject matter. Like, it really doesn't match at all. So,
and it's only a week. This is 1 week after.
Yeah.
That's 1 week.
Roll her over. And I went over and, well, I guess I had this phone still. So, and that's what he said, keep the phone by you. And I went over and it seems like he told me to lay the phone down now and roll her over. So he said, but keep the phone by me. Don't hang up. So I got down like this to, now this is the back part. And it was bad then, but it's really bad tonight. So it may not be exactly like that. But I laid the phone down something like that. I said, Sharon, I'm trying to get her to respond in some way. And told him that she wasn't responding. And he says, you're going to have to roll her over and do the chest compressions. And I says, okay. And so I tried to roll her over several times and I couldn't get her over. It's just too much weight for me. It was hurting me. And I remember grunting and trying to get her over. And I told the guy, I got him back on the phone. I told him, it seems like I told him, I can't get her over. I said, because she's just too big. And then I says, wow, this is really freaking me out. I says, I don't think I can do this. I says, the other guy is just down the hall and he's got a gun and he shot my wife. He tried to shoot me, or I think he said shoot me, but he might have said fight with me. Tried to shoot me, and he's just laying in the garage. For all I know, he could get up anytime and shoot me again. And the guy says, okay, let's take care of that. He says, get up. He says, you've got your gun. I said, yeah. And he says, okay, get your gun, get up very slowly, walk toward the man. I think he told me not to hang up. And I know when I started to get up, I pushed like that because I remember it left a blood thing somewhere right here.
Okay, I want to ask about this because this is the part that this whole thing that he's talking about, it was not at all in the conversation. And then the whole thing where he's like, oh yeah, I used this to get myself up and there was a blood thing. There was no blood thing in any of the pictures. So that's another one of the things like that.
See, he gets so caught up in these. Once again, okay, so a couple of things you got to keep in mind with guys like him. One is that, and this make it sound like it's a little out of left field, but it all sort of comes together. People like him see themselves as perpetual victims. Okay, so like they cannot take responsibility for anything. So what he's focused on right now is he's getting down, he's thinking about all the pain he's going through right then. And he also is someone who can brazenly lie. So as he's trying to focus on, look how much pain I'm in, there's no way I could have done this, there's no way I could do this and that, like I'm so limited. He is genuinely focused on what a victim he is in this very moment, even regardless of what he's done. And so that's why the story he weaves is so focused on, you know, the hitman and the fact somebody could come and get him, is that he is focused on his own victimhood here, not the fact that his wife died or that, well, I mean, obviously we know the reality of what happened, but he's purely focused on how he is feeling. And as far as like the remembering the blood print there and all that stuff, once again, he thinks that's a detail that will legitimize what he did. But he is, once again, I think he's so used to brazenly lying and that he's so comfortable with it. He just doesn't care about the consequences. I mean, it's really remarkable when you have somebody that lies with no consequence, because once they realize they can do it, that nothing will stop them, and they'll realize, hey, like there's a this guy, not to sidetrack our conversation about this too much, but there's this guy Nicholas Rossi, who I don't know if you've seen him. We don't need to go into great detail, but he faked his own death. He moved to Scotland, and he has this awful fake accent, and he just lies about who he is. It's wild, actually. And so sometimes people like this can just lie, and they just don't care. They don't care if you do or not, because it's usually, oftentimes, it works out in their favor because it confuses everybody else, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's almost like he has no thought of the future. Like, he's not worried about the fact that they're going to hear the 911 call or anything. He's so focused on his performance in that moment that he doesn't even consider.
What's important to him here is, I'm the victim and I'm the hero. Those are the two. If he can get those things accomplished, he's done his job. He doesn't really care about the rest of it, because once again, he's probably done things, lied like this previously before, and it just never went anywhere, and so he just feels emboldened to do so. That fits the story right here, and that, in his mind, well, that legitimizes that I tried to turn her over and there would have been blood on my hand. So if I remember seeing a bloody handprint there, that's an important detail. So it's just a stupid lie, but one that he probably thinks is pretty good in the moment.
Yeah. What about the way he talks about her, about how, because like, we've seen pictures of her, and I think the coroner said, like, you know, her body, she was like 180 pounds, 190 pounds, something like that. It's not like this is, you know, like a huge like amount of weight. And the way he talks about her it just sounds so
it goes
cold.
back to him, because it goes back to him being a victim, which is, I have all this pain and me having to try to save her. Look how everybody needs to feel bad for me right now, because I had to try to turn her over and it made my back hurt. So that's what he's focused on. I know that sounds weird, but that's
no, I mean, it makes sense.
And one of the hard parts about getting in the mind of somebody like this is understanding the logic that they apply to the world is very different than what the rest of us use. So to understand him, you can't think like you think. You can't go 1 + 1 = 2. You got to come up with a very different formula.
Yeah.
Trying to balance myself to get up. And I got up, got around Sharon. Excuse me, and I had it either in my pocket, in my belt loop, something. I took the gun, kept looking back. I'll tell you what, too, about this time, and I did not tell you that, but about this time, I got noited, and I went in the shower, and I just went like that and backed off, except it didn't do that. It went back in. I just kind of went, because I started thinking there was somebody in the shower. And that I didn't put in the report. I remembered that later and was going to call you, but I didn't. And go back down the hall, and the guy's talking. I turn on the light because it had went off. And he's laying right here. The hood, I don't think the car was this far up. I think the car was a little bit further back, but he was laying. Yeah, it was definitely further. I park all the way over. When I park, all the way over against the edge, because if you don't, you can't get out. And my car will stop right there, so I can get out where those buckets, where those that JVC thing is. That's as far as my front end will go, and then I can get out after that. Sharon backs or pulls in about where she's at, and we can get in. Just got a little more room that way. And that night, the car was a little bit further back. The truck was a little further, I think, this way, and maybe a little further back. But anyway, he's laying right here, and he had on a sweatshirt, and I think he still had on the gloves, as far as I remember. But I do remember the ski mask was right up here by one of his hands, sort of, or by up here somewhere. And there was sacks like this. And when he got in the car, there was sacks that was in the trunk that he was, because he said he had a date. And my briefcase was in the trunk. Because one of the last things I did before I leave was get my briefcase out of the trunk and throw it in the back of Sharon's car. I always lift the seat up, stick the bag underneath the seat, and then close the seat down so nobody.
It almost seems like here, like all these extra tangents that he's going on, he's like trying to like explain away things that they're going to see or that they saw to like.
Yeah, it seems that way, that he's got sort of a mental checklist, and he's just going through his lies just one after the other, and just I think he's actually making this stuff up on the spot. I don't think like a lot of criminals and liars will think about, especially ones that have only been through this kind of thing like once or twice. They'll think through it all ahead of time. They'll get a really perfect mental image of everything that happened, and they'll stick to that script. I think he's going by the seat of his pants. I don't think he did that. I think he's just talking. He's just impulsively just there's this and there's this, and he's just making it up as he's going along. I don't think he cares that much how consistent things are. He's just trying to explain away anything he can.
Yeah. He talks about all this for a minute, but I want to get to, right here when he's talking about Mike. I'm going to skip forward a little bit.
Sure.
And he kind of tilted that way. And when he did, then he kind of went like this. And I reached down right here. Let's see if he was laying this way. It would have been this hand. It would have been this hand. Because he was laying.
He does it again like
he
that.
He was laying something like this, but on his head. And when I pushed him over, then his hand dropped down. And it was right here under this hand. He wasn't holding it, but it was his hand was right by it. He was holding it, I'm assuming. He wasn't holding it then. And I picked it up by the... I picked it up by the... I think by the wood part on it, and brought it in here, told the guy I got the gun. He said, throw it, put it somewhere in another room where it's safe, and lock the door. So I locked the door, except this is a lot faster. This all is just going really fast. And I remember seeing...
He did one thing right there I wanted to point out, actually.
Extinguisher.
Oops. Yep.
If you look his hands, he's doing this. And this to me says, like when he's talking about holding the gun, that he's trying not to get his fingerprints on things. So he would be holding something gently like that. Like that's the way his mind works. Rather than picking something up, be like, I got to get this gun out of this to make sure this guy doesn't shoot me or whatever. He's talking about grabbing things in a way that is a lot more suspicious, but he doesn't realize he's doing that because he's unconsciously showing you exactly what he actually did in that moment.
Oh. See, I never would have picked up on that. I hit the wrong thing and I moved us somewhere. Let's see. I think he just come in here. Right.
And I remember seeing I'm assuming
that grunting.
Yeah, well,
I'm assuming
a lot of that goes back to like, it's to remind people what a victim he is. I want everybody to know how much pain I'm in. I'm doing this for you. You should feel bad that I'm having to do this. I'm going to guess that a large part of how he operated in his marriages and in relationships was to use guilt. I'm guessing that was probably a huge tool of his. Now, maybe that's a stretch, but that's based on what I'm seeing. I think that's probably a lot of what he does. So he puts on these performances to make sure everybody knows how uncomfortable he is and how it's everybody else's fault that he's having to feel this discomfort. Look what I'm doing for you. I'm getting down on my knees to show you what happened here. I'm picking these things up. So this is all a way to sort of manipulate how people around him feel. It's annoying, but he's trying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
It just irritates me, but it seems like I know what he's trying.
He has, where is it? I want to get to, I think it's, this is where, okay. So the way he talks about Sharon, I think this is like the shoes and then him talking about her. Oh yeah.
Got back to where I was at. Told him everything was cool. Got back down here and shook Sharon again, talked for a minute. And I said, she's still not moving, but she's bleeding really, really bad. And he says, that's why you've got it. She's going to die if you don't do this. Now, something about going to be unpleasant. He says, now put down the phone and roll her over and then talk to me. So I remember from CPR and stuff that you got to do the counterweights or whatever. So seems like I lifted this arm, kind of lifted her up and pulled this arm under and one of these knees sort of over and kind of, I just had to jerk her. It wasn't like a gentle, loving thing by any means. It was like, and about the third time it jerked enough that she got up kind of straight up and I could just kind of push her over. And she came over and it was the grossest thing I had ever seen in my life. And my wife that died of a heart defect was pretty gross. But just really thick, blobby stuff coming out of the mouth. And I don't know if it was blood. I don't know if it was some type of matter. And I remember the box was under here and it was slick. And I tried to push the box like that back, trying to get the leverage. And there was the other gun, another gun laying right.
Okay, so tell me, I'm dying to know your thoughts on him explaining this.
So he gets so focused on the idea right now is he's in detail mode. I need to convince everybody of all these details. So that's what he's thinking of in this moment. So rather than thinking of it, okay, let me explain it like this. And you may have heard me say this before, but people like him don't see people as humans. They see them as objects. Right now, he's talking about a prop. He's talking about a thing. He's not talking about a person. He's not talking about, oh my God, to see my wife in that state, I would have done anything to save her. Like, here's what happened, but like, sorry, this is hard to talk about. Whatever it is, I mean, there's a lot of appropriate ways to react to it. Right now, he's in detail mode. This object is something I treated this way, so I'm going to talk about it as such. This object I had to deal with was so heavy. It grosses me out to even talk about another human being that way, but that's very much how people like him think of other people. Is it's a prop, it's a thing, it's a toy. It's not a person to him. So he's just talking about this person as though it's somebody he doesn't care about. It's another thing of look at what I had to do. Ugh, it was inconvenient. It was heavy, and it was really unpleasant for me. Think about all the unpleasant things I had to go through. So that's what it is he's trying to give details, but he has no emotion about it. The only emotion I presume he has is, whatever money he was trying to collect afterward or whatever it was. So this, he doesn't, once again, his poor sense of audience, if anything, the medication, if it did anything, it probably allowed his poor sense of audience to run a little. Well, I don't even know if it made it more and more rampant. He's never had a good sense of audience. I've never seen him act appropriate. So it probably didn't have much of an impact. But anyway, so that's my take on it. Is it's just he feels like he's describing a thing rather than a person because he just doesn't have the right frame of mind for it because he doesn't really care.
Yeah. Ugh.
Right here. And I picked it up, and I don't know why for sure that I was gonna check it to see if it was loaded. And I don't know why, because I know guns better than this. I don't know revolvers that much, but I pushed the revolver, the button at the cylinder drops open. And I'm thinking more like a safety button or something. But anyway, I just pushed it, and I could see that the cylinder was starting to come open. So I just closed it back and just threw it back, just dropped it right there, and started doing the chest compressions. Got him on the phone, told him what was going on. I reached across like this, took her pulse one more time, no pulse, and pulled her blouse up, and I went up from the sternum or whatever is the way I was taught to do it, and I went up to where the sternum is, and then you go up one fist up, and then one fist over it. And I know the whole time I'm probably crying and yelling, Sharon, God damn it, fuck, Sharon, fuck, talk to me, something like that. And
also for just 1 second, one thing it was interesting. He's very definitive about a lot of things that happen. Right here, he said I was probably crying and all of that. So he can't even fully commit to that lie. That's one that even he has a hard time with. Rather than saying I was bawling, he said I was probably crying. Like he it seems so alien to him to genuinely be upset by it. He can't even. With as much of a liar as he is, he can't even say it. Completely, which I thought was interesting.
That's a really good point, because with everything else, he's so sure about it. He's like, I know that I did this, and we know it didn't happen. But with that, he's like, I was probably. That's a good point. Ugh, I get so mad just watching him. But this is really interesting to me.
I'm doing the correct chest compressions, and then I kind of thought maybe I'm not doing these right. I'm kind of doing them like a wild man. So then I started 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and I'm really just getting tired. And every time I pushed on them, blood just oozed out. And I did that it doesn't seem like it was very long, maybe.
I see what you're saying about the me thing, like him being the victim, because he's even talking about trying to like potentially save the life of his wife who's been shot. He's like, oh, it was hard. I got tired.
Yeah, I was so tired. Ugh, come on, guys. you really expect me to keep doing chest compressions? I mean, like it's incredible, really.
That's crazy.
Mm.
Ugh. All right, let me get to the shoes. There was, I think it's like right here somewhere.
Back and bad neck, and I says, I just don't got too much left in me.
Ugh.
And he says, the police are here. Go let them in the front door. Just go let them in the front door.
He just doesn't have much left in him. Poor thing.
And
I know, right?
I went and let the police in the front door. Yeah, I don't remember what I did with the phone. I just came right in here. And now what's weird about the door, and this I do not remember for sure, but it seems like when I undid the door that I did it all right. I looked to make sure the buzzer was off, and then I realized it was too dark, so I turned all these lights on and turn them off again to make sure I had all the right ones, because one of them works a floodlight, one of them works this light, and one of them works.
I know this is an irrelevant detail, but it's a way to understand how liars like him work, particularly ones that are pathological liars, is that he flipped the lights on and off for a second. So that sparked him to tell us a story about how he had to turn the lights on and off to make sure everything was on. Pathological liars work like this. Like I said, rather than going in with this specific coherent vision they want to talk about, things on the fly make them think of new lies. And so that right there, when he accidentally flicked the lights on and off, he felt the need to try to explain how that happened on that night as well, which made no sense. But he does this a lot. But anyway.
Yeah.
The porch light. But anyway, I turned them on and off again, make sure I had them right. And I unlocked the doors, and by then the cops are yelling, put your hands up, whatever. And I think they must have had some type of lights or something, maybe just car lights, but it was really bright in here. And I did the same thing on this, but it was like I locked the door instead of unlocking it. So then I had to go back and do it again to come out. And that's the only thing really weird I remember, is that I thought that I had unlocked the door, and it seems like I locked them and then unlocked them. And that don't make any sense to me, because they should have just been unlocked. I mean, I should have just unlocked them once rather than and I may have only done it once. It may just be my mind, but in my mind, it seems weird to me. It seems like I locked them rather than unlock them. And then I just went outside, and cops grabbed me and just took me down, took my money, took my clip, took my gun, took my little pill bottle thing, took my keys, took everything I had in my pocket. They didn't check my shoes, didn't check.
That's
Okay, so this is something too. Like he's doing the same thing that you're talking about, like with the him stuff. But then he starts like, they didn't even check my shoes, and they didn't even. I think that's really interesting too. He's sitting here talking to the police about what other police didn't do.
And it's interesting also that, you know, when it goes to show when he thinks of lies, how he thinks of all the different things. It tells us something about how he thinks, because like as someone who lies and as someone who cheats and sneaks things, he would think to check somebody's shoes, but he's pointing out they didn't even check my shoes, right? So it's interesting how his brain works stuff, right? Because once again, it goes to show that he's not just talking about what did and didn't happen. He's including really weird details that give us so much insight into how he thinks. Not that any of us are better for knowing how he thinks, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me find the shoes part. Oh, actually, this is okay. So this is interesting, because you mentioned that for most of it, you know, like he's leading the way. So this is the first time when things aren't quite adding up, and the detective starts asking him, like, okay, so explain this to me. So I want to hear what you say about this part too.
I was just going to say, because this camera's starting to tweak me out. I wasn't planning on camping out in there. I was just getting them and going.
We've switched tapes. Now we're on tape
Already
2.
got one hand in his pocket.
Now
That there's somebody else there. His hand's in his pocket because he's already trying to obscure. Oftentimes when we start feeling anxious, we hit freeze and then flight and then fight. You hear about fight or flight, it's really freeze, flight, fight. What freeze means is we try to hide, flight means we try to get out of there, and then fight means we fight, obviously. The detective's there, so he's already got one hand in his pocket because he's trying to move less. He's trying to seem less visible because he knows this is a scarier time than when he's leading the charge. So just in terms of body language, we already see some changes.
Yeah. And he said the camera was starting to tweak him out too. Did you notice that? Like,
I did. Yeah, I think it shows that he's starting to get more uncomfortable. He's given a lot of details. It might starting to be wearing on him a little bit because you got to think about the adrenaline that pumps when you start lying. He may be crashing a little bit from that adrenaline, so he may not be able to keep it up quite as easily as he was before.
Okay.
Some clarifying questions to get real specific about what you're dealing with here. You said that you had gone into the room and you took the gun from the shoe rack that's hanging in the closet.
And a clip.
And you put the clip in your pocket. And then when you were coming, you started to come out.
I did come out.
Okay, you are actually exited all the way out.
About right here.
Okay, so you're in the doorway.
And he's coming right by.
Okay, but then he charged towards you. How far back into the room do you think that you went?
Well, I went to right here to the door.
When he came towards you.
Oh, when I came in here like this, decided, okay, I thought I seen something right there.
1 second, I want to point
just like
out.
that.
So he's going to answer questions as he wants to answer them. The detective asked specifically what happened, and he still wouldn't answer that way. But he's so annoying, people give up. Even police give up because you'll ask him something directly and he won't answer it. In terms of body language, though, I did want to point out a minute ago he was leaning on the wall. Oftentimes people do this as a fake way to show feeling casual, because when we start feeling aggressive, sometimes we stand with our legs further apart, because from a biological sense, it's harder to knock someone down if your feet are planted farther apart. Another way to do that in a false way without appearing to be aggressive is to lean against a wall or something like that. So it's not shocking that as the policeman's there, both hands in his pockets, leaning against a wall, he really is starting to actually feel more uncomfortable, which we weren't seeing. So,
that makes sense.
Got it, stuck it in there, and came back right about that. And about right then, he's about right where he is.
Okay, so he's standing right in the area.
Even closer, about here.
Okay.
Okay, and then he just kind of comes into where I come out.
Facing you like I'm facing you now?
He's more like going out, but he's
going to leave.
He's looking at me.
Okay.
He's looking at me.
But he's making his motion north towards the door.
And I don't know if he's making his toward the door or more toward just coming around this way. But I'm just saying he wasn't back that far. He was about right here.
Okay, he's about here, and he's going towards the garage door.
I don't know that he's going toward the garage door. He's just going to right here. As far.
He's trying to maintain control right now of the narrative. He's not going to give the detective anything, even though it's all lies anyway. He doesn't want the detective to be able to say, to make a point and have him agree with it. So he's disagreeing just to disagree so he can be in control of this narrative. That's part of why he's being so weird and difficult, is he wants to be in absolute control of what is said, even if it's immaterial, even if it doesn't really matter. He just is not going to go along with what is being suggested.
Oh, wow. That's interesting, too, because this is the detective that he doesn't like at all, that he called, names and asked about his wife and stuff. Like, so that's a surprise.
That doesn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
As far as I know, because that's where we met.
So if you could, not me doing it, if you could explain his actions for me, if you could kind of show what you remember him doing.
He just came up, just coming up right up here. Well, he's just about right here. And I don't know what he was doing. Because I just turned around and got this and turned around, and there he was. He was.
Not what was in his head. What was he physically doing? What were his movements that you remember?
Just about. Well, that was about it. He's just walking like this, and he knew. I think he knew I had went in there. I don't know if he's seen me go in there or what.
Okay.
But when he
what
came,
did you see him do? If you could just repeat his movements.
He
just
keeps
like
asking.
that, just kind of.
He's
He's
not going to do it.
Squared off on you.
Kind of.
The funny thing is, where he keeps standing is where, when the detective said, "Was he right?" He said, "No, he was further forward." Now he's standing exactly where the detective originally stood, and he said that's wrong. So it's like he just was being disagreeable. I mean, he's just he's such a pain. God.
Such a pain. And every time the detective asked him, no, like, what was he doing? What were his movements? He's like, well, he knew I went in there, so he knew this, and but he still, he's, which obviously, if he's lying, he can't, he doesn't. I guess it makes sense what you're saying. Like he doesn't want to, nail down details because they're not. He doesn't want him to.
Yeah. So even if his detail is wrong and provably wrong, he just feels like as long as he's in control, it's fine.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
No, yeah.
Okay.
More of a about there.
Right.
There.
So
Nah,
now
maybe
you squared
even
off on
maybe
it? What was
about
he
right
doing?
there. He was looking for at first. I thought he was looking at something, but I guess he was just looking through me.
Because you
But
guys are just a few inches away from each other.
just
really.
a few inches away, and
Okay.
he's going. I had just come down with the gun, and you could see my gun. I had the gun,
Okay.
and he's doing
And he's reaching.
for something. I don't know what he's doing. He's
Okay.
either getting a gun or going to fuck me because
But
he's
he's-
doing something
he's-
with his pants.
He's facing
Oh.
this way, and he's got both hands. Or just one?
See, but this is a way that he's used to disarming people being vulgar, probably. So in other words, he's trying to make people laugh and feel closer to him. It's once again, his sense of audience is bad. This has probably worked with people he's interacted with in the past, or maybe he thinks it does and people uncomfortably laugh. But this is a way to try to disarm people. And so this is the way manipulators work, is that they tell lies and then they try to make you laugh, or they'll smile so that you feel like you should go along with it. Because when we're around somebody we like, we try to reflect what we see. One person smiles, we smile back. His sense of the situation is so bad, he doesn't realize how inappropriate and how absurd it is. That would never work. But unconsciously, that's what he's trying to do because he's sort of a goofball.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Think just one, but I don't know for
Which
sure.
one? It's stamped in your memory. I mean, I'm sure that you're never going to forget it.
See, this part is so interesting to me too.
I think it was this hand. He was
It's
digging in because I was thinking I could probably hit him.
This is the first time somebody's been asked where he's been asked to definitively say. I mean, he said that you were basically, I'm paraphrasing, but the detective basically said, "You're going to remember this. No one's going to forget this. So show me exactly." So he is stuck trying to think on the fly because has zero control. Now somebody said, "I want a definitive answer from you. There's no way you've forgotten this," and he's lost control. So he's just going, how can I commit to something without actually committing to it? So that's why you're seeing this sort of awkward dance.
Yeah. Which is it's such a crazy thing too, because having all of these crazy details of, oh, I remember, this about the lights and this about this, but then here's like this main part of, of what happened. And even when the detective saying like, I'm sure this is ingrained in your mind. Like this is a huge, huge thing. And this is the quietest he's ever been in his life, like during that period where he's
seriously
thinking.
And I'm sure this detective's seen this a million times. I mean, part of the reason I went into body language is some of the evaluations I was doing. There were so many people just lied to me all the time. So that's what got me interested in it in the first place, was learning how to detect lies and deception. And I'm sure this detective is used to people lying to him. I love his reactions to him. I mean, they're really good.
And
He's
here
great.
he was digging with. Well, he had both hands down, but then
so
one
he had
hand
both hands, and it looks like his
one-
left hand was digging.
was look like this hand,
Okay.
and then came up with kind of cut the other hand up like a defensive move almost.
He did.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Well, he was just getting it up. I don't know if he was going to push me or what.
What's he saying to you?
I don't know that anything was said. There was something said like "fuck you" or "oh fuck" or "fuck this," because I remember saying "fuck" a few times.
And then he said, I'm not sure anything was said right before he started saying that. So it's like he contradicts himself so quickly, so many times.
Yeah. And then just keeps rambling on like it's not going to be noticed that he's contradicted himself.
Fucking come in my house or something like that or something. I just,
He didn't
shit.
say anything to you?
I don't remember. I don't think he did. I don't think he
so
did.
He steps up in here, and then he turns and he squares off against you. And then what do you do?
Because just about like
And
that.
he's
That's
reaching
it. Then
with
he
his
moves on down here.
He didn't come in on you?
Nope, he didn't come in on me. He just, well, maybe a little bit on me, but not like we was gonna fight. He was more, and you know what happened when we came in like this? We sort of like this. When we came out like this, I don't know if he was because he's looking for his stuff, and then with this hand came up, and I thought he was going to push me, but I think what he did is did the mask, because somehow it seems like maybe his mask came up a little bit.
All right, so he lifts his own right arm and takes.
I don't know that for sure. I'm just trying.
And this is another one of those things too that is so. I guess the more the detective tries to push him for details about what actually happened, the more uncomfortable he seems to get any kind of.
Yeah, and so that's what you're seeing is that he's never going to. It's a constant dance between a detective who is on point and trying to get him to respond, and somebody who is good at just evading questions and just knowing how to talk around people to where they normally just sort of give up.
Yeah,
so that's what he's trying to do.
And I can tell you, like, I would probably be one of those who just gave up. I'd be like, oh my gosh, just stop talking. Just go. Let me move on to a different subject so that I don't have to hear you rambling anymore. So I guess that makes sense because
it works.
I don't think a lot of people would have the patience to,
No, absolutely not. And I'm, there's a certain point where you get flooded with so much information. You just go, okay, it's not worth it. Never mind. I just can't get a good answer out of this guy. So I'm sure that has worked to his benefit in the past.
Yeah. It reminds me of Letitia because she did the same thing. Letitia Stock doing the same thing. Like just the overabundance of details that don't make any sense. And it's like, you have to kind of like weed through all of those to get to the, actual parts of a logical story.
It has come around. But I remember we may have just touched here a little tiny bit.
Where was he in relation to you when you fired the first time?
Maybe right there.
So is he going?
No, he's turned toward me still. He's still
is he shuffling? How's he doing?
Nope, he's still trying to dig and he's still digging out. He's just like this, just digging out, and I'm kind of coming. I'm just coming at him. I'm going to shoot him.
Okay,
I mean, there's
he turned into here and he squared off on you. How did he get there?
He seen me, then he just turned around and just kind of nope. He wasn't running. He was back, and the whole time just keeping an eye on me. He's kind of. He's keeping an eye on me. See where I'm going.
Okay, so now he's gotten over to here and he's still squared off against you.
Pretty close. I think. I just started shooting. Yeah.
Okay.
I just started shooting. I don't know if I fired the first shot. I just shot
straight up. Squared on you?
Don't know. I think he's still facing me. He might have been a little more. No, I don't think so. I think then I may have already shot him when he put the gun up, but he's more maybe kind of like that a little bit. It seems like it was like that because it was just like, it was close. Okay. It was pretty close. Might have been a little further back.
Against the wall?
Yeah. And then he was headed toward the door. And that was it.
All right. So show me his movement from the time that he came up here, back here, where you first see him. Show me what you saw.
I don't even think he can remember what he just told him because on the fly. Really
because then as soon as he tries to say, okay, now show me exactly what you just did, then he's like lost again.
Yeah, I genuinely think he's so used to just lying on the fly that he genuinely couldn't remember what he said if he wanted to. So. See, the victim part comes back to the trap. Now he's grunting to make sure that hey, I'm in pain. You're putting me out by doing this. So that's a way to start to deflect, and hopefully he can turn the tide. I mean, I think that's how he's thinking about it.
Yeah, because you can tell that it's not. I mean, look, we all I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So we all have the noises we make, but his are so overly exaggerated. You can tell it's for show.
Sure, absolutely.
I closed the door after they told me to go get the gun and close the door.
Well, this is before all that's happening, though, because you're still confronting him.
Right.
Also,
when I came in,
if he was genuinely that much pain, I know people that have dealt with back pain and stuff. He probably would have used his foot to kick that thing to the side rather than leaning over. Like the goal was to make the noises. The goal was not to actually move the rug. Otherwise, he would have found an alternative way to do it. Because people that deal with that kind of pain, pretty good at avoiding it. They know what not to do. So so once again, it shows the performance aspect of that.
Yes, I agree.
And seeing Sharon.
Oh, when you
I had the door.
You did this with the carpet?
Yeah, I did. I stood here from this. Sharon called at her a couple of times, and I actually started, like I told you, I pushed the garage and then stopped it because I was actually going to go get the neighbors.
Okay.
And I thought, you chicken shit, go see what's wrong with your wife. And I closed the door back down and then
you put the carpet
did
over
just
the
like that.
Okay.
Came up here and about right here, I just thought, no, this ain't cool. And started going in to get the gun. And like I said, just as I started to go in here, I don't know if he went in, if he came out, if he jumped across, because it was just out of the corner of my eye.
That's really interesting too. The part he just said, it makes me think about what you said about how showing himself as the hero. Because he was like, yeah, I was going to go to neighbors. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
you know, you face your bravery and go take care of your, you know,
as soon as he gets the chance to tell his story again, that's where it goes. As soon as he's in control of the narrative. Once again, the detective has lost it a little bit here. Rather than stopping and saying, stop, tell me again exactly what happened. He's letting him take control. And this is how it works. This is why he's good at what he's doing. And once again, it seems like he's just meandering, but he's getting what his goal accomplished. Now, it obviously doesn't work in the long run, but rather than the detective asking him questions every 2 seconds, which was his plan, it's how he started, he is now just rambling and getting back into the hero stuff. It's really, it's impressive, actually. He's pretty good at it. It's just annoying.
Yeah.
But I think he was hiding. I think he was in that bedroom and he just stuck his eye out enough that I could just see him.
In the drum room.
In the drum room, yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Just enough that I could see him and just out of the corner of my eye. And that's what I just got scared. I just got scared and I said, fuck it. I know there's a gun in there. And that's what I did. I just grabbed it and turned around and he was coming down. I think he was running. I think he was probably going to run away. And
Okay, but see, now again, he says, I think he was running, and he was just saying, oh no, he wasn't running. He wasn't running.
Right. And on top of that, if he was trying to run away, that would have been illegal to kill somebody that's trying to run away, actually.
Yeah, and right around in here somewhere, we actually kind of bumped into each other just for a split second.
Okay, but if he's running towards that open door.
Well, I don't know that he was going toward the door as much as maybe he was coming toward me.
Okay, so show me what you saw.
Total opposite of what he said before.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I almost ran into him. Him.
Right.
Okay, he's coming down here, and it's like he was looking to see if I was in there for sure. I don't know if he was like thinking maybe I'm just standing here waiting to pop him if he goes by.
He's told like 20 different versions of this story now. It's remarkable. I mean, because I can't even keep track of all of them.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like, oh no, because he wasn't running, and then all of a sudden he was running, and then oh, he didn't come up on me. He was going this way. And there's like, well, he came up on me, and we bumped into each other, and oh, his hands were down. Well, one hand was up.
But if you look at the inflection point in this interview, when he went from answering the detective's questions to taking control, is when the detective said, I know you remember this really well. That is the moment where he somehow has taken control of this. He really realized, I'm at risk here, so I'm going to double down on talking and giving details and doing all of this, because somehow the detective, it's not a criticism of him, but he has lost control here. And I don't know if he's trying to keep good rapport so he'll go along with him or what, or if he just knows we're catching him contradicting himself, so let's just let him keep going. But the detective's not asking him questions, which it seemed like his agenda at first was, I'm going to ask him this, 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 and this. And he's going to answer. He's not, so he's getting what he wants.
Yeah.
Just kind of just like this, and I was right up on him.
Okay, then
right
finish
up on
the
him.
move until you see him go down.
Actually, I came forward. I came forward a little bit because we made contact, because that's when I bit the side of my mouth. I thought I hit the door or something, but it was just from contact. I might even have maybe I might have pushed this mask up because I'm taller when we came in here.
Well,
but
you'd be pushing it down, though. He's shorter.
Pardon me?
You'd be pushing it down, not up, right?
Well, I'd be pushing it kind of sideways. I wasn't like knocking it off or anything with my hands. Okay. I think just body movement.
All right, Tom. So
and
then if you
I'm thinking maybe it clogged his vision.
Do this for me. You've gone into the room. You retrieved the gun. You're coming back out. Show me his movement from the time you see him until the time.
It's like pulling teeth.
Repeat that.
It is.
You actually
yeah.
That movement.
Okay, I'm coming out about the same time too, and about right here, we hit, and he's coming.
Okay.
He's coming down just like
when
this.
You first see him, he's there. He squares off on you.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Kind of.
Then what happens? With him, just his movement, not yours.
Like kind of like that, and I was already shooting.
Okay, so
I was already shooting.
When you first fire, he's right in this area.
Yeah,
still facing
probably, maybe a little more that way, maybe a little more this way.
Okay.
Because I kind of just.
Where do you think you hit him?
Probably, maybe in the arm or the chest. At first, I didn't think I hit him because he just kept
kept
going.
going.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you fired the first time, does he stay squared off on you?
No,
or does
no,
he turn and go?
no. He's going,
Okay.
and I'm shooting the whole time. Seems like maybe about right here, he actually gets turned away from me.
Okay. So you fire the first time, and now he's stepping. Go ahead and repeat his movements for me, whatever you remember.
Wherever we're doing something here,
Mhm.
and I don't know if I hit him. I don't know if that's when he got his gun out. If he just said, "Fuck it, I'm running." I don't know what the deal was. It seems like I shot him again, maybe like about right here, and then he started turning like this toward the door, and I shot and shot. I may have emptied the gun. I don't know.
How many times do you think you fired before you got to the door?
As many times as I could. I don't know.
How many times do you think?
I think the gun holds 8. It would have had 1 in the chamber.
So that's 9.
It's 9, and I don't remember it staying open, so it had to be 8 or less.
Okay.
But
so then what happens after he's now he's squared off against you? You fire the first round.
I fired once or twice, fired again.
And as he's going out the door, you fire again?
I'm firing.
Okay, and then
he
goes down right outside the door.
Okay, I want to ask about him. As many times as he says this, like he, in multiple different parts of this interview, he's like, "Oh, I just, shot and shot and shot and shot and bam, 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 and then I fired as much as I could." He talks about that so much. Is like, what is this? Why is he like pointing out how many times he fired, like as if that's a big deal?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, when I think about, I probably, if we go back to the idea of him being the hero, I mean, he thinks of that as a powerful act, so the idea that, I guess the idea I didn't shoot my wife, I used all the bullets on this guy, were probably what he was trying to focus on, right? Like, so I must have emptied the clip on him. It couldn't have been me that killed her, because and I think that's what he's trying to keep people focused on, the idea that he killed this guy, he didn't kill his wife. So it's like the idea of, it was a good thing I did this. I unloaded my gun into him. I just kept firing. So I think it's probably just to keep the energy on that side of the house. That would be my guess anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. By then I'm here and he's down. He's down, falling or laying down. I don't know.
How does he land? Face first?
I think
Again,
he does,
another
because
question
maybe on his shoulder, but kind of his head turned down.
It's just some more on his right side. You're showing.
Well, and see, he does it when he gets a question he can't answer. See, now all the stuff that you point out, I'm going to be seeing, because now he's starting to get down. He's like, "Oh, let me get down so that I can become a victim again."
That's exactly
and
right.
Kind of under his hand, but like that, but laying down, because the car was further back and he's small.
Did you flip him over?
I pushed him over, with my foot.
All right, so he's mostly on his right side, and you pushed him further over.
Right.
People that have the kind of pain that he has that would have pointed at the ground and said he was laying on his right side right there. They wouldn't have demonstrated it, right? And so again, it's he has enough empathy to be manipulative. And so he tries to manipulate the fact that he knows other people feel empathy that he doesn't feel. And so that's what a large part of it is, well, I know other people feel empathy. This makes people feel bad when I do this. So I'm going to do this right now. But his empathy is probably pretty much non-existent, I would guess. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that he really doesn't genuinely understand empathy other than enough to manipulate others.
Yeah. Before I got diagnosed, I had because I had cancer, so I had a tumor that was like causing a lot of back pain, and I didn't know what the back pain was from at that point. I hadn't been diagnosed, and so anytime the pain was so severe, when you're saying this, I'm thinking there's no way, on God's green earth, I would have gotten down at that point, knowing how much, because no matter how much you want to help somebody, getting down on the floor does not help them understand it more. I would have been like, yes, this happened right here, because when that pain is actually that severe, you avoid
sorry,
it.
But I can't lay down to show you, but it was just like this, right? I mean, like, you would have avoided the pain because it was unnecessary. So yeah.
And it's funny that he does it at all the key points where, there's moments where these are the things that they need to know the specific details about, like what happened with Sharon and what happened with,
absolutely.
him those
Yeah.
are he's all of a sudden he's got to get down and hurt himself at all the key points.
That's right.
Let's
Done when the guy told me to. But I shot him before that again.
Okay.
I was standing right around, probably about right here.
Okay.
And I mean, this is all almost the same continuous motion. I'd already shot him and was coming up, and he was down and kind of, you know, doing whatever you do as you go down. And about that time, I just had, well, that's kind of scary. About that time, I had stopped shooting for a minute because I thought that's it, you know, he's done. And about that time that the light went off, it was up, and that was that opens the door. That fire extinguisher sits over here. I think the fan sits up. Anyway, this fire extinguisher, when I remember seeing it, was under my car like that. But
grunting.
my car was further down. But the fire extinguisher fell, and that's what the noise was.
And then you fired two more times from the threshold?
One or twice, I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
Once or
Okay.
twice, and I was still in here.
So
And
he's laying head that way.
Almost head and body kind of this way, and his legs over here, one hand there, and
Okay.
that's
But
about it.
mostly on his,
No,
right
wait,
side.
his hand would have been up underneath here. So he was kind of laying like this,
Okay.
at first. And when the noise came down, I shot one or two times along here.
Okay. So you still
It may have been once, it may have been
Where'd you
twice.
hit him then?
Pardon me?
Where'd you hit him?
I shot him in the head. Shot him in the head.
Shot him in the head?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
In the head or up in the back area, somewhere through here.
And you're standing about that? You're standing.
I think so. I somewhere around in here.
So you could see his head at that point? You
I
could see
could-
his face? How was his head in relation to the floor? Was it facing down at the floor, or was it facing up towards you? Was it facing out to the side, to the west?
It's kind of facing this way.
Okay,
It's kinda down.
so more or less down.
Yeah.
His body language changes right here too.
Yeah, he's losing confidence, right? Like that's what we see. Like if he was sitting down, he probably would have his hands between his legs. Like that's what we're seeing, this slumping. So yeah, when people start to lose confidence, and I'm losing my patience with him, frankly, like I've reached to a point where I'm just getting irritated with him. You know, it's like my empathy only goes so far, and now I'm just getting annoyed. But you know that's that you're absolutely right. His body language is changing right here.
There's another part that I guess it's not on this one. It's on a different one. So I pulled it up. Thank you, Lauren, for sending me the timestamp on this one. This is the part where he's talking about the shoes. So in the defenses, like the defense tried to say that he was talking about this and he was like, oh, I wish, she used to leave her shoes here and, make a mess. Oh, I, wish she were still here to leave them now. And that is not the way I heard it. So I want to hear how you hear it.
She went over there getting caught, and I thought maybe she. And I'll tell you what else too. Drives me crazy, and I'd love for her to do it right now. But she will leave 6 or 7 pair of shoes out. I don't know how many times I've hurt my back getting up in the middle of the night trying to be quiet because I don't sleep at nights, and all of a sudden it's motherfuck, Sharon Jesus. And she'll have 6 or 7 pair of shoes out. It's like she booby traps the place. And that's what I thought. Maybe she had tripped over her own shoes and fallen.
Okay. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I have a couple of reactions. One is the idea that, it goes back to what I've talked about many times at this point, which is the whole victim thing, right? Wait, look at what she does to me. And it's funny that he uses this example because something I work with couples sometimes. And if there's one of them is a narcissist, I basically say, narcissists externalize blame so much that they'll trip and say, why did you leave this out? Why did you, rather than saying, oops, I'm clumsy, it's somebody else's fault that they fall over. So he is trying, like, even in a moment where he's standing next to where her dead body was, all he can think about is the things that annoy him about her and ways to blame her. So that's what I'm hearing right now. And then when he says maybe she tripped over her own shoes, that's just his on the fly, impulsive nonsense that he's throwing out there.
Yeah. See, they tried to say that in the beginning where he's talking about it, he's like, I wish she could do it right now. To me, I took that as I wish y'all could see what a mess she makes
That's absolutely right.
and empathize with me about how annoyed I am.
I didn't
That's
take it
how
any other way. That's exactly how I took it. Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be hard for me to take it any other way. So absolutely, I didn't think of it as like I miss her so much. I would do anything to have her messy shoes here. It's no, look at what a mess she created and how I would trip on it. That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Bleh. He's so awful. Okay, I'm done with Tommy. All right. I don't think I can take any more of his voice. So I know that there were some other questions that some people had about some stuff. I'm going to pull up the stuff, the press conference thing, because there were some people who were just wanting to know if you had any thoughts on the body language of the attorneys when they were talking. Let me see if I can find it, because there's a specific part where Poot says they were there and Barbara says they weren't, and Poot like shushes him, and then he doesn't say anything else the rest of the time. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see.
With the jurors and the subject matter of those communications.
We've sent a request to the South Carolina U.S. Attorney to open a federal investigation into the violation of Alec Murdaugh's civil rights.
Okay, it was during questions, wasn't
The
it?
allegations in the petition filed today speak.
Told the court that there was a Facebook post by this juror's ex-husband. The ex-husband has filed an affidavit saying, I've never posted a Facebook post. Ms. Hill in her office said.
One of the things we heard was once the jury went out, even though there were 6 smokers and they were given smoke breaks during the entire trial, once the jury went out, they were told no more smoke breaks. No.
Does anybody know the timestamp on when he hushed Barber? Because I'm trying to answer y'all's questions, but it didn't have a timestamp. I want to make sure I split up. Yeah, Dr. G's given us some bonus material. He said he'd answer some more of our questions because it was during the questions, wasn't it? I don't know if anybody knows what time it was.
Acknowledged that she talked to him about evidence, about autopsy photos, and don't be upset about them. I mean, that should not be happening. That should not be happening. And this juror's a smoker, and he relayed to us.
It was during one of the questions.
Well, the problem I have with what she says in there is after going to Moselle, we, if you notice, she used the plural we, felt such and such and such and such. Is that the jurors and her? I mean, I think that's great cross-examination for her when she testifies in this matter before the trial judge, if the Court of Appeals sends it back.
Do you want any hearing in this matter to be public?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Want all y'all there. We miss you.
We miss you. He tells the public, we miss you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you said you're investigating. So along your investigations into the alleged jury misconduct and these allegations, have you uncovered any additional things that you would present in a second trial for your defense?
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, no. If we are lucky enough to get a second trial, you have to wait and see. We're not going to disclose any of that today.
What is your optimism for getting for this motion?
I'm very optimistic that ultimately we will get a new trial. How long that'll take, I don't know.
Have you tried to reach Clerk Hill, ask her any questions about any of this?
We've not reached out to Clerk Hill. We had reached out to some other folks, and based on the information we received, we thought it would be pointless to reach out to her.
Do you have any alternate suspects or suspects?
What now?
Do you have any alternate suspects or suspects in the case?
I'm trying
We're
to find it for
focused
whoever
on
sent it.
getting him a new trial.
I don't
That's
see a
what we've been working
timestamp.
on. Anything else? No. Thank you so much.
Anything else? No, thank
Let
you.
me read this statement to him real quick.
The jurors were separated.
I'm looking to see if anybody has the timestamp. You didn't watch any of this yet, did you, Dr. G?
I skimmed it. Yeah, I haven't really watched much of this. I don't do videos on the attorneys themselves because I don't like making attorneys angry. So
I don't blame you for that. Somebody says it was early. I thought it was when there were questions because he said something about going to, when they were talking about how they witnessed it, or he says, I witnessed it. And Barbara was like, well, we weren't there. And he was like, oh yeah, I was there. I don't know. If y'all could find the timestamp, I'll ask because but I can't. I don't see. One other thing I wanted to ask about this.
Yeah, sure.
He's
and knocking on, literally
this is
on
it.
Sundays, knocking on jurors' doors, asking them to speak with them.
And the third juror, independent of
I want to know what you think about the way that he says this next part and why you think I think that it has significance in how he's wording everything.
the other two say the same thing, and so we're very confident that the information is accurate.
About what he
and-
did.
and-
Timeline.
What
What ruling will be? How fast do you want?
ask them. I mean, we don't have any control over that. We just did receive a notice from the Court of Appeals that the Attorney General has 10 days to respond to our motion. Okay. Now, I think what's interesting to me, again, having done this for so long, is that once we had that initial contact with that first juror, we began going around. We had a list and knocking on, literally on Sundays, knocking on jurors' doors, asking them to speak with us. Some of them wouldn't come out. Some of us told us never to come back. But some did, and some talked to us. I'll give you an example. And one of the things we heard was once the jury went out, even though there were 6 smokers and they were given smoke breaks during the entire trial, once the jury went out, they were told no more smoke breaks. No, you're not. You people that want nicotine, you're going to have to get a verdict first. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Now that indicates something, and the court would be the one to communicate that. Why? So a bunch of folks told us stuff that appeared to be inconsequential, but in the total context indicated to us that what we've put in this petition about the court is credible. And based on sworn testimony from 2 jurors, and we interviewed a third. My paralegal, Holly Miller, has given you an affidavit or filed an affidavit on what she told us. A lot of these folks just don't want to get involved, but they're going to be involved if we get a hearing, because each and every one of them is going to have to testify in an open court before you as to what happened and what didn't happen. Wait.
The thing about I thought it was right here too, but he says the thing about how they went on Sundays knocking on doors and people, a lot of people told them to leave. And he makes a comment at some point in here too about how they, he drove his Mercedes down dirt roads, to do all this. So I'm curious about your, because obviously we all know that attorneys are very calculated. It's part of the job.
Sure.
Like it's part of making a good attorney. You say things in a calculated way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not taking anything. I'm not making this like a personal attack on any of them. I'll save that for another show. But but just from a, just from your perspective, like saying things like that and like kind of this part. Oh, look at Lauren Farmer with the timestamp again. 40:45. Let's see. I'm curious to see. Okay, here's the other part they were talking about.
The fourth person was pulled away at Moselle. Did you guys see that, or did you find out after the fact?
So they said the part about Moselle, for
Yeah.
those of you, I know the stuff is low for anybody who can't hear it. They said, did you see that, or did you find out after the fact?
Well, I think we observed it. We did. No, I was there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was there. I watched it, but I mean, look, we were not looking to impute any nefarious conduct, but clearly, what the jurors reported to us, that they were off talking, the forelady and the clerk. I saw them together, but I wasn't watching. I believe. Look, I've been doing this almost 50 years.
He brings that up
The
a lot. How long he's been
bedrock of
doing it.
any trial, and I've done hundreds of them, is that the clerk of court is the person that makes sure the jury gets their food. It's if they're put up for the night, someplace to stay, their travel accommodations are met. They're not someone that ever should talk to them about the case. I've never had it happen. Again, I've been doing this for a very long time. Never heard of it happening until this case.
And one thing we want everyone to understand, that the clerk of court is an elected official by the people.
Okay, so a couple of things. He brings up how long he's been doing this so much. And then this part I thought was just kind of interesting, because this is something that I know that a lot of people noticed on social media too. When they ask, did you witness it? Because obviously if that was something they witnessed, it should have been brought up at the time, not, months later. So that's one reason everybody noticed it. But also because Barbara was like, we weren't there. And he was like, oh, no, I was there. And then, so I'm curious to see what you have to say about.
What I didn't notice after that is that it didn't seem to rattle any of them. What I was looking at their faces to see if anybody showed anxiety or fear or anything like that. None of them did. So they've all got really good poker faces. So that's one of the things you got to realize with these guys is they recognize how powerful body language is. They probably don't research it, but when they're in court, they know how to affect the way that people feel, and they know how to hide how they're feeling. A lot of it is performance. So you didn't actually, in terms of the things we look at for body language, they didn't show much after that. And they're pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would make a face if they said something on accident, they go, that's when we feel scared, our mouth goes down, our eyebrows go up. They might do that for a second. Not a single thing from any of them. And we look for changes in behavior. Not much of their behavior changed after that too. So if they felt something, they didn't show it.
Yeah. What about, because I know that there's things you've mentioned before on your different videos and stuff about how people hold their hands. I know that standing in front of a crowd, it's going to be awkward anyway. It's kind of like that old Saturday Night Live skit. I don't know what to do with my hands. So,
right.
I know that there's going to be a sense of that, but is there anything that you pick up on with any of their body language? Most I know Jim and Barbara both kind of stand Poot just has one arm in his pocket or one hand in his pocket.
And that's the challenge, is that we look for changes in body language. And so their baseline is this, because they basically do it the whole time. So it's hard to read too much into it, because it's obviously quite hot outside. I think, because the day this would have been, I'm in Atlanta, but South Carolina couldn't have been that much cooler, if any.
Right.
So I think that like I said, none of them showed changes. And so, we can interpret that, but only if they change to that position. I think they were basically like that the whole time. So it's hard to interpret, actually. They don't make it easy on me.
Somebody asked me to pull up. Let me pull up this clip. The Murdaugh stuff has brought up a lot of the new. Everybody's going back to Murdaugh now. So this is one of the clips that somebody sent in and asked. Obviously, we can't watch the whole 3 hours, but just to watch the first few minutes of how he's when he gets up to testify, kind of how they gave me 2 different timestamps to pull up, but this was one of them. Just the beginning of him, how he's behaving with the jury was the question.
I'm Alec Murdaugh, Murdaugh. Good morning.
And the email said specifically for this part, him addressing the jury. Hold on, let me read exactly what it said. Can you ask Dr. G about this clip in the very beginning when he addresses the jury and he seems kind of fidgety? And wanting to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that he knows he's got a big performance to put on. And so he's got a lot of nerves about this. With his past, he's used to having things that can help him manage his nerves better that he doesn't have right now. So I think that he's trying to settle into it. And so he is licking his lips. He's got his shoulders hunched over, which is a position probably trying to make himself look a little bit smaller than he is, because he's a big dude, if I remember right. He doesn't look that tall. I can't remember exactly how tall, 6'3", something like that. He's a big guy. I do think that he's trying to figure out how to connect with the jury. He's used to doing it as an attorney. So he's doing some self-soothing stuff right now to try to connect with the jury and to try to get himself to feel comfortable. So that's mostly what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
Mr. Murdaugh, on June 7th, 2021, did you take this gun or any gun like it and shoot your son Paul in the chest in the feed room at your property off Moselle Road?
No, I did not.
Mr. Murdaugh, did you take?
Okay. The second part of this question is, let's see, at the 38-second mark,
Yeah.
there is a question that's asked and he says no, but shakes his head yes. So
Yep.
they wanted to ask about that part. Like,
Yeah.
so they,
This is something I talked about on one of the early videos I did that actually did really well when I started doing the true crime stuff, was the stuff on Murdaugh. And basically, the way that body language works in essence is it's unconscious, right? And so if you ask somebody a question and the answer is yes, but you're saying no, sometimes we do nod our head a little bit. We'll say like, did you do it? I'll be like, no, I didn't do it. And that sounds weird. It feels weird for us to do it because most of us aren't liars. So we're not used to doing that. So it feels weird if you say no and nod your head, but that's very much what he's doing. So sometimes we look for that to clue us in. Is what they're saying actually, like, is their body language consistent with what they're saying? And his is not. His is quite the opposite.
yeah.
This gun or any gun like it. And
He
blow
continues
your
to-
son's brains out on June 7th or any day or any time.
No, I did not.
He says, no, I did not.
Right. And he's clenching his jaw and all this stuff. I mean, he's got lots of body language going on around the mouth. We can soothe ourselves by touching our lips or doing things with our tongue. So he's doing a lot of self-soothing behaviors. He's looking at the jury. I mean, there's a whole lot that goes on in this very short amount of time. So he's showing quite a lot.
Yeah.
And fired into your wife Maggie's leg, torso, or any part of her body.
No, I did not.
Did you shoot a 300 blackout into her head, causing her death?
Mr. Griffin, I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime, ever.
He's still shaking, like, or nodding or doing whatever he's doing.
He does
Murdaugh,
look a lot,
that you?
actually, yeah.
Is that like self-soothing, you think? Or like, is that just nerves or?
It's a good question. It could be a little bit of, well, self-soothing and nerves sort of be the same thing, really, because it's when he's feeling that anxiety, so it could be that because he was already nodding his head that he continued to do so. But that there certainly can be part of self-soothing. It's not something that's super common, but he certainly seems to do it a lot. So
Yeah. All right, let me pull up the other timestamp that was on this. And I know that this is one of the things that that you've, I know you said like a lot of your Murdaugh stuff was, popular videos, which doesn't surprise me because like this is one of those that everybody was very interested in. So I know you've covered a lot of this. So for
I'm happy to do. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
There were a lot of people who did send in questions on Murdaugh. I've got to find the other. I accidentally closed out my email. I'm pulling it up real quick. Let's see. All right. 240. Okay.
And the medical science at the time was such that the surgery didn't work, bottom line. So it just didn't last. So within a couple of years of that, I started having a lot of knee troubles. And ultimately, I had to have a couple of surgeries. But the last surgery I had was, I think, around 2000 and
Is this the right timestamp?
4. And I think it was around 4. So I would have started taking hydrocodone a couple of years before that. And I took hydrocodone, got addicted to that very quickly. I continued taking that for a long time. I'd force myself off of it, wean myself off of it. I'd go back to it. I battled that for a long time. And after a while, I was taking so much of that, I moved on to oxycodone. And, you know, I'm guessing that was around 2000, that transition was around 2008, 9.
Okay, so the question on this part of it says, final question, when he's talking to the jury about this stuff, does this mean when he's talking to the jury about this stuff, does this mean that he is trying to get sympathy for his addiction to forgive him for that?
Yeah, in other words, yeah. Does somehow is his behavior legitimized by the fact that he was abusing substances? I mean, I think it's hard to imagine that this is not meant to help people relate, because there's lots of people that have or know people that have substance issues. It's very common. So I think that in a lot of ways, this is a way to connect with the jury and to create sympathy and all of those things. So I would imagine that probably is exactly what this is. Although it's funny watching this again, it's almost nostalgic because I watched it so many times back when it was.
I bet. Like the Murdaugh trial is kind of how I got started with all of this. And so anytime I see any of this stuff, I'm always like, oh my gosh, I remember so much of my time.
That really is when my channel gained a lot of popularity, was right during this. And it just sort of has been sort of on a pretty good trajectory ever since. But it wasn't even that long ago, right? But it's, I spent so much time with it.
Yeah. It feels like forever ago. But then on the other hand, it feels like, oh my gosh, like we just went through this. Okay, so I just started a podcast on Karen Read. So one of the people sent in a Karen Read hearing, and asked about, let me pull up their time thing, and asked about her body language and the judge's they sent me a news clip instead of a law and crime. I think I can do that without getting in trouble, right? Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. I'm always hesitant. Like, I never know the rules of some of that stuff.
Let me see if I can find it on the law and crime thing instead of their news channel. Yeah, I get a little bit nervous about it. Let me see. On crime, there's a let's see, search. There's a hearing that they had where they had asked the judge to recuse herself, and she did not, because of connections that she had to the family. I don't see it on Law and Crime. Let me see. I'll show this one. It should be. Let me go back to their thing. All right, let's see. Oops. Let me find where. Okay, this is where the judge is. Okay, so the question on this one, let me read it. Okay. There's evidence that the judge has a connection to the family and she is denying it. Is there any way that he can tell anything about her body language that would suggest one way or the other? So that's what the question is.
Because of an internet post saying she allegedly knows potential prosecution witnesses, something she strongly denied.
And I want to make it very clear that I reject the notion that untrue and unsubstantiated rumors spread on the internet can force a judge to recuse herself from a case.
Judge Beverly?
I couldn't take. Honestly, not a whole lot from that clip. I mean, she was pretty consistent throughout that, and I tend to be a little hesitant to comment too much on judges because I never know if, in some weird way, I'm going to have to interact with them. But I didn't actually see anything that stood out in that clip, honestly. So
Okay, and then the one with Karen, with her body language. Let me pull that one up. It's another news one, but I think it's so small we should be fine. All right, let me pull up that clip. And this one, let's see. There are people talking that says that she has a cold look, but it looks to me like she is just attentive.
So she's just attentive and isn't okay. Sure, I'll take a look.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Attorney David Yannetti and Attorney Ian Henchy from the Yannetti Law Firm. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Alan Jackson from Worksman Jackson and Quinn, along with Elizabeth Little from Worksman Jackson and Quinn, on behalf of Karen Reed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jackson. Good afternoon, Ms. Little. Good afternoon, Ms. Okay, so we're here for the Rule 17 motions. Who's going to argue those?
So, Your Honor, there are two motions before the court that we'd like to be heard on. One is the motion to renew our motions to compel, which we'd like to be heard on first, if the court pleases. And I would be arguing that motion with regard to the rule.
You don't really seem to see her a lot on here. Let's see.
One thing I can comment on that while we're looking for if there's any more footage of her, it looks like she might have lip injections or something like that. And so she may have Botox, lip injections, which does give people a much more still face. And we tend to interpret still faces as aggressive. So it's very possible. I haven't watched her stuff at all. But if that's the case, if she's not showing expression, people may take that as cold. That doesn't mean she's not cold. It just may mean that we have a hard time reading her.
Yeah.
So it could just be a very neutral face.
Gotcha.
As we noted in our motion, the prosecution move very quickly when they want to. In other cases pending before this very court, the very same investigators secured DNA testing within 2 weeks of opening their investigation before anybody was charged. Contrast that with our case, where here we are 15 months later, no such testing has even started. Regarding the Canton Library video, this court should know we still do not have relevant time periods. From the Commonwealth's evidence, we know that my client drove by the Canton Library at 12:16 a.m. on January 29th because that was recorded. There is video of her driving by at that time, heading to 34 Fairview, which is where John O'Keefe died, with her taillight intact. We know that my client arrived back at John O'Keefe's residence at 1 Meadows Ave in Canton at 12:41 a.m. because the Commonwealth produced a voicemail that she left for John, where you can hear the garage door closing, the car door closing, the house door closing while she walked in her high heels on the garage floor. 1 Meadows is a...
So to me, I know like she doesn't move a lot, but I mean, aren't they also kind of instructed to not have...
They are, and but I think one of the challenges, like if you compare her face to the woman that is 2 seats down from her, which I don't know if that's one of the attorneys, but you know, like I said, I don't know if she has lip injections, but her mouth like sort of protrudes a little bit more. I think that, you know, it just, I don't know if she would ever have a facial expression that wouldn't look that way, because I think that may just sort of be how her face looks. I haven't gotten to see enough of her facial movement, but I'm guessing that people probably project that feeling onto her just because her resting face does have, she has these arched eyebrows. Like I said, she may have some Botox and stuff like that. So I think that it may just be that you don't see much from her face, and that's sort of the default.
All right, I will do one more because this one has been. This is one that, and I know we aren't going to do the whole thing, and I know, but I've had so many questions about Buster. If you could just get like an overall kind of. I don't even think this has the clip on it. It's just the question. Can you give any kind of insight into Buster's behavior on the new interview?
So he has a lot of body language on the interview. I decided not to do one on Buster. I can't remember. I might have talked about this because I did a live a few days ago. And a lot of people have been asking me to do it, but he hasn't been charged with anything. And it doesn't sound like he's going to. So I'm trying to give him some space on that. But I mean, there is a lot of body language I can interpret, but I've chosen not to, just because it doesn't seem like that there's any pending charges or anything like that. I mean, it could always change, and maybe at some point I'll do that, but I'm pretty hesitant to do much of an interpretation of it at this point.
And then what is the like, are there any that, because I know I've kept you hostage for a couple hours and that, so I know you probably need to go soon, but I'm curious to know from your perspective, who do you think has been the most interesting to do an analysis on, or to watch and to pick up things? Like, are there any that stand out to you as far as, because I remember watching the Letitia trial and we were like, oh, I can't wait to see what he says about Letitia and, different ones, but who stands out to you?
I mean, Letitia Stout definitely stands out to me. What sucked about that trial was that the quality was so low on some of the footage. That was the frustrating part, right? So in that sense, her stuff, I loved analyzing her material, but there's some challenges there. I'd say the person of that I could go back to over and over again is Chris Watts. He has the most body language of anybody. It's just like that you can really teach people on, because he has so much and he's such a bad liar. So
yeah,
I enjoy analyzing his as well. So he's a good one. And another thing that I've been doing a lot lately, which is less relevant to these things, but I analyze a lot of serial killers because I think there's a lot we can learn from them. So like Ed Kemper, Ted Bundy, those Gacy, but pretty much all of those guys, whenever I want to do additional analyses to like help people learn about body language, there's always tons to get into with them. So pretty much any of those old school serial killers always have some interesting things to talk about. But this year, Stout is probably the one that stands out to me.
Yeah. And can you give us any like little sneak peek about what we can expect to see on your Ruby Frankie video tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to tell you about some of the things I found on there. So one thing I did avoid, I'm not using clips from 8 Passengers. YouTube got rid of that. I'm just not even going in there. I'm like, I've got plenty of other stuff I can talk about, and so I'm this is analyzing their connections videos. I don't know if you know what their connection stuff is. Basically, it's a group where they coach moms, and it's on Facebook, and they have a ton of videos on there. So I took some videos from there, analyzed that. I also analyzed them in court, although it's really short, so there's not much there. But basically, if you look at a video of them from like a year and a half ago, they're themselves, but they're bubbly, they're smiling, they got lots of big bright body language. There's some conflict I catch in there that's actually really interesting, a conflict between the two of them, which you'll see. But then I compare that to a video from like July, and their energy is completely different. I mean, something going on, like they seem like not different people, but like there's high levels of stress, they're not open, they're not having fun. Same type of videos, same setup, but their energy is totally different. So I do wonder what was going on around the time that last video was being filmed. Which you'll see. So
wow. I'm really excited to see that video. So we'll be, like I said, we'll all be like waiting, like that old commercial when they're like waiting on the store to open. And they're like, open. That's how we're all going to be when your video comes out tonight. So I'm excited about that. And as that one progresses, because I've had so many requests to cover that one. So as that one progresses, we'll keep up with it. So we'll all have to make sure we watch and see what else you have to say about it.
I will keep you updated. And the more new stuff that comes out about them, I will analyze that all day. I'm just less likely to go back to their old 8 Passenger stuff, just because for a variety of reasons. But so I hope that it's in Utah. So and there's a lot of cameras, and we've had a lot of good footage from Utah. So hopefully they will have cameras in there. We'll see. So
I hope so. I like to be able to see all, the whole process work itself out, and and hopefully watch justice play out. So well, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us so much. I have really enjoyed this. This is something that is so interesting to me, and I know your ears are probably burning, half the time while we're watching stuff, because we constantly are like, what do you think Dr. G would say about this? So I really appreciate so much for you to take the time to come on and hang out with us and especially since we had to listen to Thami for so long.
No, I'm happy to do this. Like whenever we can coordinate times that match up, I love doing this. I love going on live. So anytime you want to have me, let me know and we'll make it happen.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love that. Yes. All right. Perfect. All right. I thank you so much again. And everybody, we have the link for Dr. G. He's one of the friends of the channel. So we have that on our stuff. But make sure if you have not followed him yet, now you see how brilliant he is. And now you can go follow him. Dr. G, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
And 13 jurors, thank y'all for hanging out. And I appreciate y'all too. And I will see y'all tomorrow.